Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. Gain valuable insights by attending the podcast, then complete the assessment test to download your certificate. To do this, follow these simple steps. Click on the link in your description to access the session. Create a free account and attend the podcast. After the podcast, take the assessment test and download your certificate. It's easy, and it's free. We highly recommend checking out our subscription. Let's get started.
From the way you actually explain the way your community runs, it clearly shows that, you've really put in a lot of thought into it. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain Rome was not built in a day. So I'm sure, a lot of it was also through the experience when you
Oh
started.
yeah. We haven't always done it done it right, but yeah, it's very interesting to me that this community type company evolved over time. So I've gone and read about community. What does it mean? What are we trying to do that I didn't know we were trying to do? And how do we now care for people that say, I'm going to assume you're going to create a safe place because I'm going to share. And then how do we get them to actually share some of those struggles so that the rest of the members can overcome those struggles with them and they come out as a better person? That's the goal of the community. And so we always say, as a firm owner, you should never run your firm alone. But if you're small, most of the time you are. You can't share a lot of the struggles with anybody, but you do need to share them. And you just need to be careful doing it online when you assume there's community around you, but not necessarily. So those are my opinions. They may not be right.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I don't know whether it's the name Jason, but I have you, Jason Blumer, who runs Thriveal, which is a very blooming community. And then I also got this other gentleman whom I know, Jason Stats, who also runs another community on another platform. And, I'm
Yes.
sure you must have heard of him,
Oh yeah.
So I don't know
Good
whether it's
friend.
a name.
Yeah. You have to have a name, Jason, right?
You got to be
No.
qualified. Yeah, you got to have Jason. That qualifies you to start.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. No, Jason
right.
Stats runs a great community. And it's
Yeah.
the beauty of communities is they start to lean into
Welcome back to another episode of your favorite podcast we're trying to figure out. This is the show where we explore the big shifts in the way we lead, live, and grow in this rapidly changing world. Today's guest is someone whom I've been following for quite a long time, Jason Blumer, who is the CEO of Blumer CPAs and the founder of Thriveal CPA Network, a community that's flipping the accounting profession on its head in the best possible way. Jason is in fact one of the OGs of virtual firm structures, a thought leader in creative business models, and someone who isn't afraid to question everything we thought we knew about accounting. So Jason, welcome to the show.
Cool. Saul, thank you for having me. And you've got to have the coolest name for a podcast. W.T.F is certainly a really cool name. So thank you for naming your podcast that.
Yeah. It was
it.
just it was a lot. There was a lot of brainstorming, no doubt about it. But our marketing team, this was one of the suggestions, and we were first skeptical about it, but then we took like a leap of faith, and
I like it. It's good.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me on the show. I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely. Well, so let's go back to the year. I think it was the 2012 when you made that leap to take your firm fully virtual, long before it was cool, long before the pandemic. So what was that turning point that made you go all the way in?
Yeah, it was, so I had been running the firm since 2003. That's kind of when I started running the firm. My dad started it in 97. And so I started leading it to 2003. We had an office in our town, which is Greenville, South Carolina. Yeah. I know you can't tell I'm from South Carolina with my Southern accent. But yeah, so we started, we had local clients and we started getting clients all over the country. Right. And that fascinated me because I came from another firm where we
Mm-hmm.
served locally too, because I had been at that firm in the late '90s,
Right.
and and we would just get local clients. That was how you did it, back then. You went to the Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
And I started marketing in a way that we were getting referrals from other parts of the country. And
Right.
I'm like, they never asked me, how are you going to deliver my tax return to me? They just assumed you could serve me across the country. And this was probably back in 2010. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. I think I could go home and work at home and still
Yeah.
run a CPA firm. And so I did. I just,
Uh-huh.
when the lease was going to run out, I'm going to shut the office and walk out and tell everybody to go work at home. And it wasn't as smooth as I'm making it sound like, because
Yeah.
I didn't know how to lead a growing firm in a virtual way. That turns out that's much different than leading a team in an office.
Yeah.
But we did it. We learned a lot, and I'm, so glad we did.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a cultural shift as well in terms of how you do business for the team as well as for your clients. I'm assuming like when you actually put this forward to your team, to your clients, that hey, now we're going to be going completely
Mm,
virtual. How
yeah.
did they react in these early days?
Yeah. Well, it was we thought about that because my dad was running the firm with me at the time, and he's like, a lot of these clients are not going to work virtually with us.
Yeah.
They're used to driving by and dropping off their tax documents at an office, some receptionist desks. That's what they're used to.
The infamous
That
shoebox full of receipts.
that's right. Yeah. That's how that actually is real, that still happens. And so we really just had to identify which clients are probably not going to do it. And
Yeah.
so we did a series of messaging. We kind of said, and we gave them time, I think maybe 9, 12 months. We said, this is happening at the end of next year. Then we would remind them again, it's about to happen. You have to choose a package to actually work with us now. And a lot of them didn't like that. So,
Uh-huh.
people got mad. And then some people were like, that's cool. So I don't have to
Yeah.
drop my stuff off anymore at your
Yeah.
office. So some people liked it, but we pretty much had, a brick and mortar client base that had to
Mm-hmm.
transition over.
Mm-hmm.
And then from then on out, anytime you get a client, you just go through a process of onboarding them and you help them to operate with you digitally. Of course, they know it because they can't
Yeah.
come see you. And so
Yeah.
they know they're going to operate digitally. So they're kind of open to that anyway. And so it's fine now with the processes we have, but we lost a bunch of clients doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's a natural progression, right? So that happens.
It is.
But this is something which is very curious because today, if at all we were to be talking about virtual firms, it's the de facto mode. Almost everybody is virtual. There's technology in place, there are tools
Mm,
in place, companies that are offering these setups and everything, operations, everything is there. But
yep.
this we are talking in a time wherein I'm not even sure how you did it with lack of technology.
I
So
know. I know.
so walk me through this, maybe like, open up the time capsule and tell me like, what were the technologies that you embraced at that time?
Yeah. Well, so when we had an office, probably like most firms, we did operate from a server.
Right.
And so there was a server in a back closet, and
Mm-hmm.
all of the computers were tied to that server. So, if we had a project management software, a tax software, some accounting software. We were starting to use some cloud-based accounting software at that time,
Right, right.
like Xero, and I think QuickBooks. Their online product was pretty bad at that
Yeah.
time, but we were just starting to use it, but a lot of it was still server based,
Yeah.
software. And so, a lot of what we dealt with was, and that network environment's pretty complicated actually. So we
Yeah.
had to have a specialist kind of understand why the windows wouldn't connect to the server and why we couldn't log in and things like that. And I really never thought about that when we closed the office. I'm like, cool. And it turns out back in 2012, there really wasn't a cloud-based tax software, and
True.
or
True.
there may have been that I didn't know about. So
Hmm.
I had to put that server in my house and have my team log in to my house, and that just started to become a pain in the butt, and it didn't work well. I didn't know, I didn't think about all that.
Yeah.
But we got through it, and then we eventually had to migrate to a product you can access online. And of course, that's all we have now, our cloud-based products. So
Do you want to earn CPE credit? Take this course of MyCPE ONE to earn free credit. Click the link in the description to get started.
Well, I can only imagine, when the pandemic hit and everybody was like, oh, now we'll have to go virtual. You already
Yeah.
had it.
Yes, it was no big deal at all.
No big deal.
Well, nothing changed. Nothing changed at all
Yeah.
at all. Our processes were built, our software, our team was built, and what we got to do is focus on how hard it was on everybody just to be locked up at home, and that was just tough on everybody to deal with emotionally and mentally. And so we got to talk about it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which was good.
And what's so surprising to me today as well is that when the pandemic happened, the virtual wave increased a lot. But today I still continue to see a lot of firms who still aren't taking that leap to actually, I mean, they're
Mm,
still on the fence about going virtual. They're worried about the culture and the efficiency and everything. So don't really want
yeah,
to go like 100% virtual. They probably might have cloud-based softwares, but they don't want to go like 100% virtual,
sure.
right? But for someone who has been doing this way back when nobody thought of it, and now that you are where the environments are much better,
Hmm.
so what advice would you give to them who are still at that fence of going virtual?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a lot we didn't realize. So we learned a lot. And
Mhm.
there's no greener grass about anything, right? So
Yeah.
even now we hear large companies saying we need to come back to the office. And and I understand why they're saying that. Of course, I understand why people are fighting them and not wanting, to do that. But running one mistake we made was we ran processes in an office in a certain way. And I
Hmm.
didn't think about it, but it all was related to one human handing paper to somebody else in a desk. It kind of floated through with the paper. And when
Yeah.
you turn that into a digital process, it can be totally different. And so we applied the exact same process, like the tax
Hmm.
process,
Right.
digitally that we ran manually in an office. And it didn't work. We didn't think about it, and we got some steps skipped. And so
Uh-huh.
since everybody was virtual,
Yeah.
there were times when we were filing returns before we had even told the client that it was done. And
Right.
it's because we got some steps into a virtual, digital process, and we just had people filing returns, and the client's like, I never looked at it. And we're like, oh, we have to put that step in there.
Yeah.
Because before they would come pick up, pay, ask questions, all really in one step. So we found you can't have manual processes that apply to digital. They have to be rebuilt. And
Yep.
then the culture is totally different too, culture
Yeah.
building.
Right.
So in an office, you build culture just by bumping into each other. You're all committed, you're in the same location.
Yeah.
And in a sense, that's cool. We miss our team, but virtually, there's not going to be any kind of cultural aspect unless you make it happen. It's an intentional meeting or a retreat, or everybody's digital and all by themselves, and you never talk to anybody. And as you grow, our team's 15 people, and as you grow, you start to team. We all know each other because we're a small firm, but some team
Right.
go, I don't work with him that much. I would love to see him. So you have to put breakouts into a Zoom to break out with
Yeah.
each other and go, let's ask questions about your family. And if you don't think about that stuff, everybody just moves to their own island and starts to just ignore everybody, and you don't feel close anymore. So my partner was really good about building intentionality into our culture, but
Right.
man, you have to do it. I didn't even realize that or even think about it.
Well, I completely agree to you on that point because our company as well, we were one of every other company that had to go through that complete virtual mindset when the pandemic happened. It's not that we had not embraced technology. We had embraced technology. Our business was such that we had to have everything on the cloud. That was already done. That was there. But then
Sure.
when that point came about shifting virtually, we were concerned about how we're going to get things done. And you're
Mm,
absolutely right. In fact, I can vouch for it that the things that you can do in the office, the way you can just get things done,
yeah.
it needs to be rethought, like literally rethought. I mean, right now obviously like we got a lot of people who are choosing to, I mean, we were surprised as well because when things eased out and everybody was returning back to office, there was always this question that, oh, will we be also asked to come back to office? But we never put it up. We were like, hey, you happy? You continue the way. But we in fact had some employees who were like, I want to get back to the office. And that was
Some
like a,
do.
yeah. And we were like, what? Why? Like,
Yeah.
but turns out that, the reason why they wanted to come back to the office is because they just missed that that companionship, those talks
Yeah.
at the cooler, or you have this, teams have got these internal mechanisms that they would hang out at a particular place, so they would have those times in the day wherein they would catch up for things and everything.
Yeah.
And all that happening virtually over Teams or over Zoom or Slack or whatever that communication environment that you've been using during the pandemic, which has been a long time,
Right.
you actually want to meet people and like, hey,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Some team are more aware of their own need for culture, like that person that wants to come back. They're like, I choose that culture. It really helps me. And it does for some people. Then there are some people that work at home and they don't realize how distractible they are. And I'm one of those. Like, I can't work at home, so I'm in a co-work space, and I get up and I go to work every single day, and I go home every single day, because I need that space. That's just my workspace. I need it to be separated. Some team
Yes.
recognize that, some don't recognize it.
Yes.
Actually, we've had some team. We've said we want to ask you to go to a co-work because this is not
Mhm.
working with you being at home. And then we've
Yeah.
had some team at home going, I need to go to a co-work because this is not working for me. And so everybody's so different. It's hard to build some kind of cultural parameter that represents the brand and the value of your firm and say, let's all abide by this. Because you want to give freedom to team to work in a way that's best for them. So culture's hard, in a virtual environment. Hybrid is also hard. And we run into
Yes.
that as we
Yeah.
are, and it sounds like y'all might be that way too. When we consult with firms, some of them are older and they are in an office, but they have a great person move away and they're like, let's let them be virtual. Well, then
Yeah.
they're out on an island all by themselves. They feel like I'm no longer part of the team, and everybody's meeting in the conference room, eating together, and they're never there anymore. And so hybrid can also be really difficult. So nobody's got this figured out, I don't think.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it's different, and it all depends on, like how they work, and the ideologies and everything. I mean, it's different, the age groups, the type of people, the employees that below their extracurricular activities, and then however they connect with people. I mean, there are too many factors. There's not really, there's no silver bullet to this, that
That's right.
this is it.
That's right. Nobody's got this figured out.
Yeah, nobody's got this figured out. But well, now I'm glad that a lot of firms are virtual. But
Mm-hmm.
and you've been doing it, so you're enjoying it. And the fact that you mentioned that you don't like working virtual as well. I am also one of those people. I hate working virtual, but back then it was a de facto mode.
Yeah.
But when I wanted to, but I couldn't enforce it, because if I said it, then everybody would be like, "Oh, it's like an order because somebody
Right.
senior is saying it." So I think we need to follow through. But I didn't want that to be projected, because
Ah,
I mean, it was in fact a very interesting realization. In fact, and this is because I heard something in a podcast, because in the pandemic you have a lot of free time. So
that's right.
so I was listening to this podcast, and this person said something very interesting, that the mood, there are some companies in which the mood of the boss determines the weather of the company, or the thought of the boss determines the ideology of the company. So
Yeah.
like, if the boss came in and the boss is like, okay, from now on everybody's going to be wearing white shirts only, so it's like, we got to follow through. Or if the
Yeah.
boss is angry today,
Yeah.
that's the weather of the company for that time.
That's
You
right.
know?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like somebody who is like, this is what I'm going to be doing, and then everybody's like, okay, we got to follow through. No, I rather
Mm,
we would rather want to hear from the employees that, what do you want to do?
mm.
And based on that, we
Yeah.
can accommodate, because that's what I think a job of an employer is, to know what their employees need, and then create those favorable environments so that they feel valued, and they know that, they have a place where they can work, as well as, they are able to have that comfort of working.
Yeah. So did
Yeah.
you, like Saul, did you just kind of, you went to an office then and you didn't let people know? So they didn't feel like they had to follow you in your footsteps, or I'm
That's
curious.
exactly what I did. That's
Okay. That's what
exactly
I
what I
would
did.
probably do too. Yeah. Yeah.
I just, it was my personal choice. So I went to the office and I
Mhm.
was working from the office, and then the conversation started, and like, hey, oh, so you're working out of the office? Oh, yeah, I am, but it's okay. You don't need to. I
Yeah.
just wanted to have a change of scene. So, and plus, working from home has got a lot of distractions. So,
It does.
you'd rather, I want to work from
Yeah.
the office. So I was there, and then like, hey, and then it initially started with, one or two people would just like come in that, hey, I would like to work out of the office today. Can I come into the office? I'm like, of course. I mean, you don't need to ask, buddy. It's our office. You can come in whenever you want. So
That's
then it
cool.
started, and then it just kind of became like everybody started coming back on their own. And then, but I still asked them, and that's when I asked them, like, look, I'm not asking you to come to the office.
Yeah.
What do you want to do? Do you want to stay home, or do you want to have a hybrid, or what do you want to do? Just let me know. I can accommodate to all of it. I'm completely okay with all of it. And
Hmm.
that's when somebody's like, I really want to come to the office. I'm like, well, the door is open, buddy.
Come
Come on
on. Yeah,
in.
that's cool. Yeah. It's well, and I think you do have freedom as a virtual firm. You
Yes.
can accommodate a lot of that. Like if we have a team member who works at home and she's
Yeah.
she's wondering, I think I want to go to a co-work, and she checks in because of the security protocols. Those are important. It's like,
Yes.
is that going to match a lot of our security needs? And those are things we have to check. But also we don't require a co-work just because I do it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm the CEO of two companies, and I've got to focus. I really cannot lose any kind of time being inefficient. So I have a pretty strong blocked calendar and a methodology we use so I can stay focused and get, my work done. And it just happens better in a place that's made for my work,
Absolutely.
basically.
Absolutely. And you
Love
mentioned
it.
about two companies, right? And so we talked about the CPA practice. Now let's talk about Thriveal. This
Mm,
vibrant, innovative community that you built.
mm.
I would really want to know, and I'm sure to all our listeners also, they would want to know what inspired you to start it.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.
That's a good question. Um, I didn't mean to start a community company.
Huh?
I really didn't know what that was back in, 2010 when I was seeing the need for that. Probably was I was meeting a lot of people online.
Right.
Um, and that's and it probably was kind of the same time when our firm started getting clients all over the country. And I was like, that is so cool. Why would people reach out to me? um, and the client not care where I was located, and started meeting with other people online on Twitter. 2009 is when I
Yeah.
was on
Okay.
Twitter. Um, you
Wow.
just, there were like four CPAs on Twitter in 2009. I don't know, not many. Jody Padar and some other friends. We were talking to each other, and then
Oh,
we'd
wow.
call each other.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jody was part of the people?
Yeah,
Jody was.
early on, yeah, we were trying to figure out how to do this thing together, and she was one of the leaders in Thriveal, yeah, long
Yeah.
time ago.
Wow.
And yeah, we even went to see each other, going, how do we use these cloud products, and how do we console, how do we help our clients? And we both were working with our fathers. She worked with her dad in his firm, and
Yeah.
took that over from him, like I was doing in my firm. And we just started meeting people. Then we would show up at conferences together, and a group started forming. And I said, God, we need a formal place to be together,
Yeah.
and let's create this place. And I think it was free. We started on LinkedIn groups.
Uh-huh.
I think those are still a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we would all just log in and just chat with each other. And then just like anything, it grows from there. People want coaching and courses, and then we say, "Hey, what if we all kind of came together live in a conference?" And
Yeah.
that was our first Deeper Weekend conference, 15 years ago. and now they all travel to the conference every year in Greenville in October. And so it just built on itself. And now, a lot of sponsors really rely on us for a lot of their education to their market and
Yeah.
sponsors and communities and events. And we do a lot of private stuff for our
Yeah.
members. Obviously, we teach them and master classes and courses, and there's a lot of stuff we don't promote because it's for our members. And
Yeah.
then we do a lot of webinars and podcasts too. So, yeah, it just
Interesting.
grew legs on its own.
Wow, I didn't know. I mean, the reason why I was, surprised when you mentioned Jody was because, in fact, this podcast kind of becomes like a cross with another podcast. Because I had a podcast with Jody early
Okay.
on, and that was when she was talking. She talked about, she was just back from AICPA Engage,
Yeah.
and she was talking about, how AI was like everywhere you go, everybody's talking about AI, 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 AI. It's like
Yeah.
AI is like everywhere. But then, she's talking about value billing, and then, she she in fact it was a very funny thing that, a client actually asked her that this is what I did, and I used AI for getting something done in 20 seconds that I would usually take 2 hours. So do
Yeah.
I bill for that?
Yeah. Right. I know what Jody told him. She's like, heck yeah, you're going to build the same thing you used to build. Bill for all of it. It doesn't matter how long it took you. So,
Yeah, yeah. But it was really, really fascinating, really fascinating,
yeah.
to be talking to you and to also know that you connected, and, Jody was one of those founding members at Thriveal.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Very
Oh,
interesting.
yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Crazy.
well, now, how many members does Thriveal have today?
We have about 100 across the US and Canada.
All right. Okay.
Yep.
This is great. This is great. And,
Yeah.
you know, uh, I have been trying to, get into the scene of communities. I'm more of a Reddit guy, so it's not really like
Yeah. Reddit's
professional.
all,
Yeah.
Reddit's great, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But like these are like different communities. Tribal is a different professional community. Reddit is more for my, personal interest and hobbies and talking about movies and all those kind of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, when we talk about communities to professionals, they often take a back seat because they probably don't see the benefit out of it. And a lot of people have got a lot of misconceptions about communities. They think that, it's a
Yeah.
sales thing and what's not. But if I were to ask you, what's one misconception you think
Mm,
accountants have about professional communities? What would that be?
yeah. Um, Most of them are pretty good about this, but it's weird to come into a community of competitors.
Ah,
People that serve clients, and it's like, will they steal my clients? Will they take my clients? Um,
oh,
and of course, that doesn't happen in a community because you get to know people, and you'd never do that to people and care about. So, um, and that's really the foundational beauty of a community is
yeah,
that it is paid. It's paid. So that means it's protected, it's confidential, and everybody signs the same types of agreements. So you're basically agreeing to enter into a relationship on the same foundation.
right.
Um, and it's, of course, why we would say you can't truly have community on X or LinkedIn. And
Yeah.
but there's a lot of aspects to it that feel like it. And I think a lot of accountants wonder why I have my community on X. But there's some specifics about a community that you don't tend to have online, and that is everybody's name,
Yep.
and on X there are a lot of hidden profiles.
Yeah.
That's because people they just want the freedom to kind of do whatever they want. But
Yeah.
also on X, there's a lot of market based, signaling that people do, a lot of
Yeah.
psychology to, hey,
Yeah.
look what I've done, and we have to respond positively to those posts. And you see some people who get challenged, they get really
Oh,
mad, and it's
yeah.
like, oh yeah, don't tell me, about that. And so, but in a community, that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to first be in a protected, private place.
Right.
Where we tell the members, and we've removed some members before, not much, but we'll say, we're real strict. You can't share anything that's said or typed here and copy pasted anywhere else. So
Yeah.
what that does is it does create a relationship where people share their weaknesses, they
Hmm.
share their failures, and nobody's going to try to one up them from some hidden profile. We know their name. We're here to support each other. We're like, how can I help you? Can I look at your proposal? You know, here's what we did when we filed that tax return. So the community is meant to give, and not take or be competitive. And so that comes in a specific place, which is kind of that protected place. And I think also the paid part of it makes it
Yes,
real. It's like you have to be serious if you're going to continue to pay for this
absolutely.
month after month. And so online communities don't have that. And it's weird. I just wrote a post on our Thriveal blog not long ago
Hmm.
that was titled "Too Much Transparency." And
Uh-huh.
and what I was writing about is the fact that some people online share things in a way that they're sharing it with their community, when in fact I was making a point in the post, that's not your community. I know it feels like they are, but
Yeah.
online mostly we're voyeurs. We're really interested in looking at your financial numbers, and of course I would never share them with blindly with everybody on the internet, but people do that now.
Yeah.
And I think it's because they feel like they're in a community, when actually there's a lot of parts to the community that don't exist online, and you just have to be careful. So
Yep.
you create communities that actually provide a lot of that safety. There needs to be a lot
Yes.
of safety, and then
Yes.
the sharing happens after there's defined safety. So I
Wow.
don't know.
Wow. Very interesting. I mean, like, from the way you actually explain the way your community runs, it clearly shows that, you're really putting a lot of thought into it. And
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain Rome was not built in a day. So I'm sure, a lot of it was also through the experience when you
Oh
started.
yeah. We haven't always done it done it right, but yeah, it's very interesting to me that this community type company evolved over time. So I've gone and read about community. What does it mean? What are we trying to do that I didn't know we were trying to do, and how do we now care for people that say, I'm gonna I'm gonna assume you're gonna create a safe place because I'm gonna share. And then how do we get them to actually share some of those struggles so that the rest of the members can overcome those struggles with them and they come out as a better person? That's the goal of the community. And so we always say, as a firm owner, you should never run your firm alone. And but if you're small, most of the time you are. You're you can't share a lot of the struggles with anybody, but you do need to share them, and you just need to be careful doing it online when you assume there's community around you, but not necessarily. So those
Well,
those are my opinions. They may not be
no,
right.
no, absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know whether it's the name Jason, but I have you, Jason Blumer, who runs Thriveal, which is a very blooming community. And then I also got this other gentleman whom I know, Jason Stats, who also runs
Hmm.
another community on
Yeah.
another platform. And I'm
Yes.
sure you must have heard of him.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know
Good
whether it's
friend.
the name, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to have a name, Jason, right?
You got to be
No,
qualified. Yeah, you got to have Jason. That qualifies you to start a
that's right.
community.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
All
Jason
right.
Stats runs a great community. And it's
Yeah.
the beauty of communities is they start to lean into very specifics, right? They provide certain kind of specifics, and we know a lot of the community leaders, and we share a lot of members too, which is pretty
Yeah.
cool because he
Yeah.
leans heavy into technology, and
Yeah.
I need a lot of his technology kind of guidance online. And we lean a lot into entrepreneurship and scaling and
Right.
growth and the complexities of growing a service-based organization. And we're skilled at kind of building firms that can grow, and that's kind of where we lean in the areas of education. So we all need different communities. So
No, absolutely. In fact, I'd like to ask a curious question. I know this is not a question for your community, but probably if somebody has asked this in your community, because this is the question that I got asked in a separate conversation, because as an entrepreneur running a firm
mm,
who is a baby boomer, and now with the Gen Zs coming in, there are these generational changes in the way things work,
yeah.
right? And that's creating a problem for people to manage, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So have you had this kind of a question asked in your community? And
Yeah, you know what? That's a great question, Saul. That's a hard one, which is probably why you asked it.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I couldn't say it because I'm like, look, I am not a baby boomer. All right.
yeah,
So
yeah,
first, I can't understand where you're. I wouldn't be. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to say that I understand where you're coming from because I don't.
yeah,
We,
yeah,
we started it way before,
yeah,
and
yeah.
and I'm not even a Gen Z. So
Yeah.
I don't
Well,
understand.
no, that's good. Well, I will say this, thankfully, my dad's a baby boomer. I'm Gen X. No, so that's a different, and then so so right now in our profession, we have four or five different defined generations, you
Yeah.
know, and it is hard to mix those up. And the beauty of a community, hopefully, is that because this is true, it's a fact that the every generation's valuable. Their
Yes.
view, what they bring, what they think.
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
think anybody denies that. It's like we have to have all of those things. So I think there has to be just a lot more communication um, on all sides because there's a lot of ways that I've been in my career for 30 years and I'm used to doing things in a certain way that really may not be the best for me and
Yeah.
certainly are not the best for other people that work for us. Like I we have a team member in our firm that just travels, a digital nomad, really not
Yeah.
really a location that she lives in, and
Uh-huh.
that's totally foreign to me. I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't been able to do it and would not be able to do it in my life right now because I need computer equipment and
Yes.
microphones and
Yes.
cameras. So what I've chosen to do. But when she said, "Will y'all try this with me?" and me and my partner were like, "Yeah, let's let's try this.
Yeah.
Why can't that work?" Right? Because
Yeah.
I'm the one who shut my office down in 2012 and said, let's just see if this works. And so
Yeah.
we're open to trying those things. So different generations are going to be challenges. And actually, you're going to learn so much from different generations. But of course, we learn so much from older generations too. They just have all the wisdom. Um,
Yes,
we may not agree how they run firms or how they act, but man, they know a lot of stuff.
they
We
do.
just can't be buttholes to each other. Maybe that's the goal. You got
No,
to be
absolutely.
nice.
You gotta be nice, and you know, truth, when AI came into the market, we were still like, okay, this is, I mean, like, you do understand what it does, but it was the millennials and the Gen Zs in our business who were
Totally.
more open to it, and they were
Yeah,
able to identify the use cases of how we can use it to make our businesses better, and they were
totally.
able to present it to us that, hey, we can do this and we can do this. So instead of getting jealous that, oh, I mean, like, how could they figure out and I could not figure out, we kind of like embrace it. I'm like, oh, wait, so why don't you tell us, why don't you run a
Teach
session,
us.
teach us that how
Teach
to,
us. Yeah.
because
And
yeah,
yeah, and AI is mind blowing and it takes a certain kind of mindset to use it. But once you lean into it, it blows your mind what it
it
can
does.
do to your work. Now, and I
Absolutely.
would say probably some older generations, that's fearful, right? They're
Yeah.
like, that changes how I do everything. Like it really can be my thought partner now. There's a
Yes.
lot I don't have to go look up in these big tax books like we used to
Yeah.
look through. And it's like, yeah, it's actually taking away a lot of the things from your past that you're good at that you
Yep.
actually don't need to employ anymore. And that's got to feel scary.
It does. It
But
does.
if you learn from other people, you can also learn, do you know what it's going to give you? It's going to give
Yes.
you amazing new opportunities, more time with people, some
Yes.
of that valuable advisory where you're talking to a client. It's going
Yep.
to really make the power of your words and your work even stronger. But you have to lean into it and go through the
Yeah.
fear of what it's going to probably take away, and it will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, this was something that I discussed with Sean Glaze, who talked about, coachability and leadership traits. And he said that, a leader needs to be, if a leader wants to inculcate a culture of coaching, that everybody should be mentoring and coaching each other, a leader should first be ready to be coachable. Like, if at all there's something that the leader does
Totally.
not know and there's something from where he needs to demonstrate those capabilities that I am learning this. or I'm ready to learn this, teach me,
That's very good.
you know.
I love
And
that.
yeah, I mean, that was,
I
I mean,
love that.
it was eye-opening for me as well, because I was like, whoa, I never saw it that way. I, as an
Love it.
individual, I'm a knowledge hungry individual. So I
Yeah.
always keep on learning new stuff and this and that and everything.
Yeah.
So it was like a natural de facto thing for me. But then I
Mm.
didn't realize that, you know, leaders actually do not, a lot of leaders don't really take this into consideration, that are you coachable? Are you ready to be coached?
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that mindset, you can't expect that mindset to be there in the organization, that everybody's
Yeah.
ready to be coached and mentored and all that.
Yeah. Well, that's you learn that real quick about leadership. Leadership is just it's an example you're showing and displaying in front of other people. So anything you ask anybody to do in your company, you have to be doing it. You know, we all of our team calendar work block their
Yeah.
calendars. That's how we don't track time. We plan our weeks out. And
Yeah.
I have to do it, and I do it way more than they do. I do it a whole year. My partner and I plan out a whole year on our
Yeah.
calendar. We have a certain methodology to do that. I have to be displaying that I believe in that and I want you to use it, but I have to use it too and abide by it.
Absolutely.
And that's
Absolutely.
has to work that way. That's how leaders, yeah, and we all struggle with leaders who say something and do something different. You just can't even put up with that. Just don't
Mhm.
work. You don't follow a leader like that ever.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, this is something that I put on my LinkedIn just yesterday, like actual leadership, because I never started as a leader. I started as an associate and I grew the ranks. And today I'm in a senior management position. I'm doing strategy and partnerships and so many things. But then, there's this thing that, your boss who puts you in that leadership position would be like, you got to now start looking the part.
Right.
Okay.
You
And
do.
and I'm like, looking the part, as in, like, you gotta look the part as if you're somebody senior. You can't
Right.
just be joking
Yeah.
around with people and hanging around and all that and everything. So I'm like, all right, well, maybe that's the way it is. So I was like, all right, fine. So I kind of like you can't sit with the team now. You gotta be in a cabin and all that and everything. I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's how it goes. So I did that, but I was just not happy with it. I was just not happy with it. I was like, dude,
Mm.
I miss being with people, talking with people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then I just kind of like, hey, I can't really do this. Okay, I gotta be with people, because I like to work that way. That's my way of working. That I want people to work. Everybody's working. We are in an industry which is when there are times when we are stressful. Tax
Right.
seasons,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
So, but you should have that element. I'm always playful with everybody, whether it be the janitor or even a courier guy who's coming in to drop in, or be it my CEO, or maybe whoever it may be. I always try to make it a point that, listen, being somebody who is approachable, having fun and professional, having fun and being professional are not opposites. You can have fun, can remain professional. It's
Mhm.
completely okay. They are both on the same plane. So you just got to learn
Yeah.
to balance it, and you can do all good.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's hard. And as leaders, it's hard to balance that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, I know this conversation went a little bit different, but, I know in your community, you talk a lot about helping entrepreneurs with their leadership and everything. So,
Mm-hmm.
and, this just came in. But, you've always been a few years ahead of the curve. So let's tap into your radar, all right? Uh,
Oh boy.
yeah. What trends are you going to define accounting? What trends are going to be happening in accounting over the next decade?
Oh, a whole decade, Saul. Man, I got to predict
All
this.
right. Probably not a decade, but what do you see is going to happen in the
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
couple of years? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's hard. I think our work is going to drastically change the way we
Uh-huh.
work.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I remember when cloud technology was coming around and everybody was freaking out about that. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to take our jobs away or it's not secure.
Yeah.
And AI's the same way. AI's even more intrusive,
Yeah.
and I think it's just ushered in a new way to work. It's really going to be it's going to look totally different. There's just a lot we're not going to do anymore in a lot of professions, not just accounting, but a lot of professions are going to just have a lot of the thought related research is just not things we're going to have to do anymore. A lot of the
Yeah.
products are going to, they're going to bring that up
Yeah.
and help us with that. So I think in that there'll be a lot of different roles. Roles will change.
Yes.
Traditionally we see staff in some firms, we see staff accountant 1, staff accountant 2, then senior manager 1. And
Yeah.
it was so structured. A lot of that, by the time you get to 10, 12 people on your team, you need a technology and a security person. Security is becoming just something you have to have skills in, right? Because AI is going to make security just way harder. And so our roles in building our firms is going to drastically look different. There's going to be roles probably in the future in the next 5 years that don't exist now. There's going to be roles that used to be around that won't be needed anymore, and probably companies that won't be needed anymore. And so, and all of that change is going to mean our team building is going to look different, and the US, they're already experimenting with, we can't find the labor we need here. So we're going to other countries, right?
Yes.
And we're trying to figure that out. And since we all had to go virtual, that's not as hard to do anymore. But I'm also seeing a trend where there were companies finding team in India to serve us. Well, I don't know if you need those anymore. You can go to the person in India and go, you want to be on my team? Yeah. Well, why not? So you can go to direct to anybody in the world. So our labor force is being built in totally different ways. And there's no difference in the labor. And so the US is really trying to figure out how do we run firms now with not having any labor. Technology allows anybody to do the same thing we're doing, no matter where they are in the world. So, and then AI is taking a lot of our work away. So now what are we going to do? Now I'm excited about it. It's going to be the best thing, for our profession, for every profession. It's the best people are going to stand out, leverage it, use it, lean into it, enjoy it. And they're going to stand out and really start to figure out, okay, if I don't have to do that anymore, or I don't have to be stuck with these people here, I get to do whatever I want. And so new services can be created. It's going to be pretty creative place, I think. I'm excited about it.
Whoa. Amen to that.
I love it.
Yep, absolutely. All right, now let's have some fun because hey,
okay. All right.
We're trying to figure out with Saul, so there has to be some fun. I'm going to be asking you some rapid fire questions, and you got to give me an answer whatever comes. All right.
Oh boy, we'll see.
I'm not going to be asking too many. But,
okay.
One book that has shaped the way you think about leadership.
Leadership. 0 to 1 is a good book. I love that book. Yeah.
Okay. All right, one more. The best piece of business advice you ever received?
Everybody in our community knows it came from my partner, Julie. Early on when I was wrecking our businesses, before I asked her to be my partner, she said, do you want what this really means? Instead of asking me, do you want to grow? She said, do you want what growth means? And that was a pretty disruptive question in my life. And it means a lot more than just saying yes to it. That was huge. That changed my life.
Wow. I mean, like, I don't want to go into that thought, but I'll remember it.
Okay.
And that's a beautiful piece of advice. Thank you so much.
It is.
And one last question. What's next for you and Thriveal in 2025?
We are launching new courses.
All right.
And new teaching. That's what we do. That's kind of what we have to do. Our members, we have to feed them new challenges, new teaching, new courses. And we've launched some. We're building new ones right now. And our community is going to be congregating together pretty soon. They come together in some events in the summer and in the fall.
Nice.
And I get to teach them these new things that we're compiling and putting together. I can't wait.
Wow. Well, Jason, thank you so much. This has been an incredible conversation,
Thank you.
You've dropped so many gems, not just for accountants, but for anyone building in this changing world. So
Cool.
before I let you go, where can folks follow your work and learn more about Thriveal?
Yeah. Yeah. So you can go to thriveal.com, and there's a podcast on there. There's
Mm-hmm.
articles that we write. So I typically write more longer form,
Mm-hmm.
articles. That's where I put a lot of my thoughts. And people connect with me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm probably most active online.
All
So
right. Well, you
those are
heard it,
good.
people. So if you're trying to figure out the future of accounting or just how to lead better in complexity, you need to be following Jason on LinkedIn or check out Thriveal website, right? So thank you so much. And thank you once again, Jason, for joining in.
Cool. Saul,
We'll be,
thank you for
all right.
having me.
Absolutely. And to our listeners, we'll be back soon with another exciting episode that we're trying to figure out with Saul. Until then, take care and keep innovating in everything that you do.
Cool.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.